First of all, I have to apologize because my tuxedo is at the washing, so I don't have. I know the tension is high. We also have an extremely long evening. We have an extremely beautiful film to watch after this Formalities. I just wanted to do what directors do. They do nothing before and they come and say thank you. So I wanted to thank a lot of people. First of all, the audience for coming and see these films, for all the guests who came, for the filmmakers who sent films to us, for those who believe in L'Âge d'Or and in the fact that we show films that otherwise would not be shown, particularly La Région de Bruxelles-Capitale. As you know, we are not a rich institution or rich festival, so we do what the festival do typically. They multiply the awards and the prizes. So this year there are 3. I'm particularly happy that we have that we added the 2 prizes, one for the filmmakers at their first or second film, and the other one is about the young audience. And I think this is important. I think there is a new generation that we want to show, but we also believe that we have to give everybody the chance to see, for example, Bruce Bailey in restored prints as it should be shown, and not as these films are often shown in bad DVD quality in a gallery. And then, of course, last but not least, in fact, the first thanking, that the most important, I wanted to thank the staff of Cinematheque. I want to thank particularly, and particularly Hilde Velaby, who been keeping this place alive for so many years. And again, I want to thank our projectionists who had to fight with your formats, your filmmakers' formats, that some not always are what they should be, and they managed to get good pictures and sound on the screen. And of course the staff in the theater here, L'Accueil, the programming group that is that you find on the catalog, who are very enthusiastic about doing all of that. I think if you appreciated the program, is because they did a good job over 1 year of work. And I think that I will do what directors should do: shut up and move away, and we move into the formalities. Just be sure to note down that more or less at the same time next year we will be here again. And as I say every year, this is the best cinema for this program because we are underground, and upstairs there is an event with a lot of tuxedos and a lot of security and a lot of European Commission, but we keep going underground, and we keep going underground. See you next year.
Good evening. Well, it's time for formalities. There are 3 prizes to be given tonight, and we have 2 juries. A young jury made of students in art schools, and we will start with them. It's the Young Jury Prize. Please come forward.
Good evening. First of all, we would like to thank the juries, Marc Toscano, Shai, Heredia and Mieke de Wulf, but also the programmators for this wonderful program and great films we've been watching here. So we have 2 prizes, and the first is not like a real prize, but it's a mention, a special mention for the film Gasometers 3 by Nikki Hamlin, that we would like, so we couldn't give 2 prizes like the, so we couldn't give 2 prizes, but we wanted to mention that film because this film, where light and time share a celestial dance, but tangible, where our eyes get a broader but also intimate sense of space, really marked us, and we wanted to just like give a special mention to it.
You're lucky Nikki Hamlin is here, and you might want to say a word.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And I like your description. It's wonderful, and I've had a great time here. And the film the projection was fantastic, and it's becoming more difficult to see films projected in their correct format at a high standard. And I thought, so I'd also like to thank the projectionist actually, because it's very good to be able to see one's work projected well. And I still think it's amazing that such a tiny little piece of material can be blown up so large and still look like something that's not completely kind of blown out. And so anyway, yeah. Pardon? And burnt out, yes, exactly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mieke.
So now the Young Jury Prize is, so we've been talking a lot about many films we saw that we thought were really strong, and the one that stayed at the end was Scales in the Spectrum of Space by Fern Silva, which is one of those rare films that managed to combine multiple aesthetics with a diverse choice of subjects. With its solid rhythm and consistent style, the film manages to appeal on a substantial level, as well as on the level of film itself. It leaves a deep impression with its reflection of humanity in relation to the cosmos, by reflecting on perception, architecture, and the things that very much make us human. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you very much. Now the two second prizes. We will start with Impatience, who is a new prize for young filmmakers, first and second films. And I will ask the international jury to come forward. We miss our president, Mieke de Wulf. She's excused because she is starting a festival today, actually, or yesterday even, today, I think, in Ghent, and so she couldn't be here. So I give the word to Shai Heredia. Thank you.
Me first. Well, we also just wanted to thank the audiences that have come to the festival, to all the programs, but also to the programs that we each had the pleasure, I think, if I'm speaking for both of us, to bring, to share with you. And it's been a really fantastic time to see the work, to see the great curatorial work that was done by Olivier and Philippe, and the incredible hospitality. So it was an immense pleasure to finally come to this festival we've been hearing about. Just for the past few years it's been going, it has already an international reputation. So thank you guys very much.
Okay, so the Impatience Award goes to Sweet Oranges by Nora Sweeney. Sweet Oranges is an intimate study of migrant workers, treated with patience and a pronounced humanism, which describes its subjects with interest and empathy through expressive cinematography and fluid lyrical editing.
The L'Age d'Or Prize, we were told at the beginning that we could pick 2 films if we liked, not just one. And we thought, because we saw a lot of great films, it would be a good idea to do just that. So the L'Age d'Or Prize will be shared between 2 films. The first one is The Masked Monkeys by Anya Dorniden and Juan David Gonzalez Monroy, also known as Ojo Boca as a team. And we decided to describe it as follows. Intelligent, humorous, disturbing, complex, and strange, The Masked Monkeys positions the training process of Indonesian performing monkeys as a dark and nuanced deconstruction of social roles, colonialism, and human behavior. Accompanying the beautifully lensed black and white cinematography, the detached voiceover transitions from analytical and descriptive to lyrical and transcendent, suggesting a larger metaphor for self-actualization.
And the Large Door Prize is shared with Droga by Mieke Revereza from the Philippines and the US. Taking the form of an eccentric Super 8 home movie, Droga explores the condition of hybrid cultural identity in its interaction with the Filipino-American community of Los Angeles. With its purposefully unresolved structure and an almost punk aesthetic attitude, we experience the repetitions, confusions, and cultural dissonance of a transplanted community and identity.
Thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you. And now the formalities are done. It's time to get back to the screening of Havarie by Philippe Scheffner, and I ask Cristina from the Goethe Institute to do a short introduction.
Thank you very much, Olivier. Hello and good evening. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy that we can take part in this wonderful film festival. I think it has an excellent programmation, and as I said, I'm really delighted that we are here with the very beautiful film of Philippe Scheffner. There will be a Q&A afterwards, so I don't want to say too much at this moment. I just want to say that for me, Philippe Scheffner is one of the most interesting and daring filmmakers in Germany working at this moment, and that he has a very unique approach to combine documentary filmmaking and essay film. And what I mean, those of you who are familiar with his work, films like The Half Moon Files, Revision, and Day of the Sparrow, those of you who are familiar with his work know exactly what I mean when I say that, and those of you who are not are going to see what I mean watching Havarie. And I think enough said, and let's watch the film and talk afterwards. And thank you very much, Philip, for being here. It's a great pleasure to have you. Yes, Philip, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for having done the trip to Brussels. Thank you for the film. And I would like to ask a couple of questions, but if you feel like you really want to ask a question already right now, please go ahead. There is a mic. Please wait until it gets to you. Unless there is a question or a comment at this moment. Can't see any. I'd like to know something about the material, because from what I learned, it's 3 minutes, a little bit more than 3 minutes video made by a tourist on a cruiser. And I would like to know how you stumbled, how you came across that video material.
It was really totally by accident. We saw the film on YouTube. So Terry Diamond, who filmed the material, he was a tourist on that cruise liner. He got this cruise he got as a present for his 50th birthday by his wife. So he was filming and he was putting the material that he shot, which he found himself like very ordinary, very bizarre and very special. He put it on the internet, and we saw it there, and the original length is 3 minutes 36 seconds. We watched it and we were thrilled by the material. I think first of all what really struck us was the beauty of the material, in the sense that it's a beautiful day. I mean, you see blue water, it's Mediterranean Sea, it's a sunny day, but there's something strange there, and the something strange was the perspective, from the angle from which the whole thing is filmed. So when I watched it for the first time, I was really like, from where is it, who filmed it, and from which position? Because you have the feeling it could be from land, because the camera is like quite still. But then this camera is zooming out and you see, God, it's like they were in the middle of nowhere, so there can't be land somewhere. And then suddenly comes that moment where it's panning to the right and you see, wow, okay, we are on a huge ship. And that moment for me was like, I got shocked somehow by that moment, because I felt, okay, that's my position. and I didn't feel ease with that. I didn't like that position. But on the other hand, again, it was a very beautiful image, also because I was wondering, what do I actually see? Because, I mean, of course, I mean, I guess everybody has directly an impression of, okay, this is a boat of refugees, but if you really look at the visual material, you don't have any, you know, there's no information in the image that's telling you these are refugees. It's a small boat, there are people there, it's a very calm situation, they're waving in the camera, that's it. It's because you're not so close that it's not the classical image we have in mind of people like in an urgency situation, grabbing for the, like, it's not, it's very calm. So in the end the camera is losing the boat, so you can wonder, okay, where is it still out there? So all these aspects really fascinated us, and then we were wondering, like, what is the context, and we contacted via internet. Was very easy. Contact the person who put it on the internet, which was Derry Diamond, and we spoke with him. We exchanged some emails. Then we went to Northern Ireland, to Belfast, to meet him, and that, you know, started a whole process of research. And
I guess from that very moment you went to Northern Ireland and talked to him till the finished film. That was a very long process, and I would like to know a little bit about your ideas, your reflection upon slowing down the original material and sort of like creating a feature film length situation with 3 minutes and 36 seconds.
So this decision came actually very late. As you see in the credits, when you read the credits, you see that it's written that all the sound material you get is arrived from, or is the result of filming that took place. So actually we were filming, we were doing a film, so with image. And so in the beginning, meaning that in the beginning we wanted to make another film. I mean, we had the idea of a essayistic film where we meet different people who are connected to the event itself, or could be connected because they are, for instance, traveling on the same route or something like that. And we wanted to combine these different biographical episodes, which are filmed in a way that is also very almost feature film-like. We wanted to combine that with the original material in a film that is 90 minutes long. That was right from the beginning the idea, that we have a duration of 90 minutes because the whole event took 90 minutes. So we know that because of the radio traffic which we got, which is documentary material we got from the Spanish Coast Guard. And there you can really, every single audio file is like, it has a timestamp where you can exactly pin down, okay, it was recorded at that moment. So if you put all that together, you can see that the whole procedure of these two ships lying next to each other, looking at each other, watching each other, this in real time was about 90 minutes. So that was to take this as the drama structure was there from the beginning, the idea. Then we, of course, it took some time, research, film funding, whatever. Then we filmed with a team in Algeria, in France, in Northern Ireland, in Spain, on a cruise ship, on a container ship. So it was quite extensive filming. Came back with our material, which was beautiful. But then somehow the time had changed to some extent, as we were editing our material parallel to the peak of the so-called refugee crisis. Meaning that, of course, there was a crisis already before. I mean, people dying in the Mediterranean seas because of European border policy for many years. But the image of this image of the boat was much more prominent at that time when we came back with our material than when we started the whole project. And so while editing our film, we always had these other boats in mind, and so we thought something has changed in the way how these images are represented in the media and how they are used in a political way. And we felt the strong need that we have to react on that. And also to get this kind of focus which we wanted right from the beginning. This focusing on this particular event, the concentration, the space. And we just felt that we can't, we don't reach to that point with the material that we have. So we decided at a certain point, we made different editing versions. And then at a point we decided, okay, we concentrate on the sound that we have gained through our filming, but we leave out all the images that we filmed and concentrate on the original material that's got our whole project in motion, which was exactly that clip you saw. And we extended on these 3 minutes 36 seconds to the extension of the 90 minutes, which in the end comes to a rhythm of more or less one image per second. Yeah, and that is, and combine these two elements with each other, and that's what you see.
So there is like a lot of hidden material, hidden images behind what we see. And I'd also like to get back to the soundscape and to the voiceover, because I find it very rich and multi-layered. But before talking about that, maybe another question regarding your treatment of the digital video, the clip, because I guess it's not just that you slowed it down and there was more involved, I guess.
There was a lot of work involved, which you don't, I mean, with technical aspects, but also, of course, if you slow down an image to that extent, things appear that are there in the image, but which become more prominent, and suddenly things appear which are not necessarily there, but just derived from the process of slowing it down. So these kind of ghostly images of where two boats as a superimposing each other, of course, that is because of the slowing down, of the non-interpolation of the different still images. So these are like artifacts that turned up in the process of slowing it down. And when we saw it, we felt like, yeah, this is exactly, something is showing. I would say the same thing with the rhythm. It was suddenly things were matching each other, that by accident it's now more or less 1 frame per second, which gives you a certain moment of 1 image per second. It's like that time passes. So it's like and suddenly that matches with the sound of clocks, which was all over in our material, because everywhere, if you go to somebody in the kitchen and you film with somebody in his or her kitchen, and there will always be a clock in the background. We realized that already while we were filming, but like the idea that there's a clock, and no, don't switch it off, we want to have that sound. And in the end, it was bizarre, because suddenly we could synchronize our sound files with the image, and we become, so a lot of things like matched suddenly. So that in the end, even if we took lots of turns, and it was a very also difficult journey to some extent, in the end we are closer, with this result, we are closer to what we actually wanted in the beginning than with all the material we filmed.
Do you have questions? Do you have, wait for the mic, please.
Hello, thank you for the interesting film. I just had a small question about you saying you wanted to react on all the images in the media. Could you say more about this reaction?
I think for me it was important that we take an image and really look at it. And that is already, and ask ourselves, what do we see? That was, I think, one of the main things that normally don't happen, because we were bombarded by photos, by images of boats, which were in the media newsreels often combined with each other. So you have like one boat here, one boat there. Like it's like boats and boats and boats and boats, but you don't have the time to really watch it, to really also being forced to watch it. and by doing that, being forced to question your own perspective as a watcher, as somebody who's watching. And you watching, or me watching, is part of the problem. And we felt this is very strong, very necessary to emphasize this in the political.
My question actually goes into this with seeing, with slowing the film so much down. It draws the attention to the media, to the camera itself, and it's not my eyes that see it, but the camera, through the camera I see it. Is that also part of the plan, I guess?
I don't know, it's, I mean, this is very much a question of how do people perceive what they see. So honestly speaking, when I see, I mean, it's very difficult for me to say because I'm too a little bit blind now when it comes to this film, but I've watched it many times, and I realized that while watching it, I'm passing through various stages, which I find interesting and very productive. So in the beginning, I felt like nervous. God, is this now going on for the whole time? Okay. But what do I actually see? Oh, okay. Oh, actually, there is some changes happening. It's not always the same, and now it's blurred. Okay, what? So. All these questions that arise, and suddenly, then I realize that I become in a certain way of dreaming away. Not sleeping, maybe could also be possible, but I'm dreaming away. I'm thinking of something else. It's more like the blue space in which I am, and then I'm shocked doing that because what I'm actually seeing is very cruel. And so how can I allow myself to, So all these different things happening, and then the shock when the pan is coming, and all that. So what I want to say is that I think you have time you have 90 minutes time of experiencing various emotions and perspectives and approaches towards the material. So one may be the camera is watching. But it's not the only one. I mean, I think that it's a very physical, for me it's a very physical thing to watch the film also. A physical experience to some extent. So it's a very, there are many, many layers, I would say. That's my experience, I don't know how people see.
There's a question over there.
Hi, when the camera is turning to the right to see the people on the boat, there is that music that I think really worked with the image we saw, and I was wondering why you picked this music in particular.
The music is when so we were on that cruise ship with the film crew. We were filming on the cruise ship. We were filming for about 5 days or something, and there was a band playing. And of course there are many musicians, and there was one band called the Blue Waters Band. It's a Filipino band who's performing on the cruise ship for the tourists. They are playing, normally they are playing strictly American music, like standardized rock classics, whatever. And we liked the band very much when we were there, because they were, I don't know, we liked them. So we asked them to play a song they would really like to hear, not playing it for the tourists, but playing it for themselves and for the people who died in the sea. That was our question, and they could play anything they want. So they chose a song which is Anak, which is a very, very famous song from the Philippines, which is something like the story of the lost son, more or less. It's explained a little bit. And they played the song, and we felt it's an incredibly emotional song, and they play it on exactly that boat from which we as viewers now watch the other boat. So it's actually it's a situation that could have happened like that. While the tourists are watching the refugee boat, in the background the Blue Waters Band is playing this song. So that was the idea, and then after that we were filming on the container ship, which is crossing exactly the same route from Oran in Algeria to Cartagena on the Spanish coast. And it happened that the crew of the ship was 90% Philippine, and we were hanging around with them, and we saw that they were doing karaoke after work. So we asked them, "Do you know that song?" And they said, "Of course we know that song." So they started to sing again the song as a karaoke version on the other ship. So for us, that was kind of a thing where we could, via a song, an audio that is traveling over the sea, connect various aspects, various layers of the film, possible aspects, possible spaces with this one song. And so when it comes to that moment in the film, first you hear the karaoke version, then it's like mixing with the different radio traffic, and then suddenly comes the edit to the version the band is playing on the ship. So it's really like a transition way of moving from one ship to the other.
There's another question.
Yeah, I was just wondering what this guy was thinking when he was filming the boat from this really voyeuristic view, and what did you exchange with him when you were like writing emails? And I was also like thinking about what the people felt like, or what the atmosphere was on the cruising ship afterwards. So maybe you know.
You mean during the filming, or like? Or
no, just in general afterwards, because then
after that event.
Yeah, after that event. Yeah.
So I mean, what he felt. I mean, he explained in the film. So you hear his voice in the film. Harry Diamond's voice is there. He's explaining what he felt. For me, I think being in contact with him was very important, because it took, I think, 2 emails, and then we were talking about the troubles in Northern Ireland. So, and I think that's very important. I mean, he's a tourist, as I said. He got the whole thing as a present for his 50th birthday. But he's growing up in Belfast, in Northern Ireland. He was a member of the IRA youth organization. He went to prison. He's a very political person. He saw his best friend being murdered by the British police. So, and with all that baggage, that biographical baggage, he's on a cruise ship watching and filming this boat. And I think that's the important thing. And that actually, when we talked about that, that kept us going into our project, gave us an introduction in the project, because we were wondering with what biographical baggage you are watching these images. And also that's a question for us, also for everybody. With what kind of experience of conflict, of political circumstances you are watching these images. And so he was a very, very important person in that whole process, and I think the way how he filmed it also shows that. Because it's not the classical tourism film, I'm quite sure. Even if it's a tourist camera and it has that perspective, he has a different way of filming it, I would say. Also, this has something to do that, as you know from watching the film, that his work is actually, he's working as a security officer in an institution in Belfast, not as a security guy who's running around like that, but his job is actually, he's watching surveillance cameras. So he's used to watching. He's very much used to watching and to sit, and so his input was very important. The atmosphere he described on the cruise ship, why this whole thing happens, it was really a mix of everything. It was people were really caring for the people in the small boat. They were demanding that the people from the cruise ship should do something. There were other people who are doing the classical racist bullshit of like, leave them there, and oh, they are black or whatever. But in general, it was more like, it was of course excitement, because something happened. It was in a cruise ship, you always have these days where you go into a harbor, then something's happening, and then you have these days where you're only at the sea, and you hang around at the poolside, and this was exactly such a day, so actually not so much was happening. First people thought they are dolphins or whatever, so everybody was rushing there. Then the people from the cruise ship went there, as the navigation officer was also describing in the film. They got in contact with the people in the small boat, gave them water and whatever, and then they returned. And what the navigation officer told us was that people on the cruise ship, the tourists, were quite disappointed because they thought, why do they leave them there? Why don't they pick them up? What is happening? So that was something that was difficult to communicate, or we didn't communicate at all. But again, this was not the decision of the cruise ship, this was the decision of the rescue unit in Spain, who said, do it like that, because the people from the cruise ship, I think 2 months earlier, had the same incident like that, or similar incident with a much bigger boat of migrants, and I think 150 people in the night, and they all took them on board. So it's not that, okay, a bad cruise ship is not taking them on board. It's not like.
Are there more questions? If not, I'd like to ask something, because you mentioned that there is sort of like a question which maybe cannot be answered, which has a lot to do with our position while watching other people suffering. I think it's not only the tourist on the cruiser who's watching other people suffering and filming them, it's also us in the moment we watch the film, it's also us in the moment we see the news or we read the newspaper. It's also something which is very much in the voiceover of the film. I mean, the first voiceover is about someone who's describing something horrible and she could not prevent it. She was 12 years old, and she was watching it nevertheless. And for me, it was more like an unresolved question. Is there something we can do? Is there some remedy how to solve that? But I wouldn't be able to say that. And maybe you could share your thoughts about this question with us.
Of course, that was a very important aspect. That's why we all the people who appear in the film speak about moments like that, where they watch something, can't do anything, for what reason or whatever. I think for us the question was always, as filmmakers, it was seeing that material, and would it be possible to make a film that would, for small moments, alter or disturb that hierarchy, which is there, so present there in the material. That was our question. How can we do that? Is it possible to create a space where this hierarchy is not neglected, it's there, you see it all the time, but still it's somehow being like that, because we get a different access to the voices we hear, to the situation. We are not so clear what we see, we have to ask ourselves, we have to involve our own position. So that would be, for me, if we manage to have to create with whatever means, a certain way of eye level between the different actors, and that would be something. So that was at least something we tried with the film, as filmmakers. And I see that as a political thing, because it's this eye leveling is not happening.
It might be a little bit difficult to get back to something more technical after such a broad and huge question like we just talked about. However, I would like to discuss a little bit the soundscape, because I have the feeling that you put a lot of work in it, and it's something very elaborate and multi-layered. And it started for me at the very beginning. I had seen the film for the first time during the Berlinale at a very, very big cinema with where the sound system wasn't as good as it was here. So I missed, for instance, the heartbeat you could hear in the beginning, and I saw it again on the computer, and there the heartbeat was like it was absent. So maybe you could comment a little bit how you proceeded in terms of creating that very special soundscape.
I think the most important thing of the soundscape is that all sounds are 90% of the sounds are really the result of a process of filming. I think that's also because when you see the credits that the cameraman who filmed all our material, he's still listed in the credits as cameraman. That's DOP. Because I think filming, that we filmed with a camera, this whole process, and there's somebody with a boom, and there's some kind of machine there, created a very specific way of talking, and a very specific atmosphere in which we meet with the various protagonists that appear on the film. The sound that the way they talk is really, the specific way they talk is because there is a camera next to them. It would have been totally different if I would go there with a small microphone and a small audio device and just do. That would have been too casual. So that was, I think, the main thing we discovered while working on the Soundscape, and we tried to underline that with all possible technical means we have, so that the sound is very filmic in a way that if it takes a while till the person is getting out of the frame, in the audio you already know that, you already have that information, but you would edit it more like as you would edit the film scene, waiting till the person is really out of the frame, then cut to another scene. So having that time and to treat the time more in a filmy meaning, like as if you would edit images, that was very constitutional for the way we worked with the sound.
I find it very interesting what you just said about having a certain technical apparatus in order to achieve a certain quality of and because there was, like, back in the 60s, 70s, there was this idea that a documentary filmmaker should be as absent as possible. I mean, that was never the case that he was absent or she was absent, but in a way it was an idea, fly on the wall, and that you sort of like don't intervene with your technical apparatus because it will destroy or alter what you try to document. And this is sort of like the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite. I know on the one hand, because I anyway not follow that idea, but here especially it was also totally different for us. The camera was very important. I didn't want to hide, even in the film concept, where we thought about which images and how we framed the images. The camera was very present and very important, and the perspective we take was very important. So no, I think it's a big. It's not a burden. It's a tool. I mean, it's changing the situation totally, and you can have to reflect in which way it's changing. So I think at certain points it also creates a way of concentration, that somebody is really saying, okay, now they are filming. Now I'm concentrating. So there's a tension there, and this tension, I think, in the end, you hear. And for instance, the heartbeat is some very simple. I mean, we didn't speculate on that, but of course the microphone was here. It was not only like that, because people had the microphones. And then there was a heartbeat. We heard the heartbeat first, the first time when we went to the mixing studio. Because suddenly, what is that sound in the background? And we realized, God, it's the heartbeat of the person who's speaking. And you hear that that person is quite tensed. So we were not speculating on that, but it appeared.
But it happened, and you only realized afterwards,
yeah.
Which is also very, very interesting, because
we didn't hear it while we were doing it. So.
Are there more questions and comments, or are we starting to get a little tired?
Looks like.
Yes, it looks like it. If that is the case, and I think it really looks like it, maybe we should call it a day. Thank you very much for your attention and for being here and for sharing this experience with us. And thanks again, Philip, for coming to Brussels and for presenting the film here. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.